A side, B side, what side are you on?
All good.
Well, hello and welcome back to another episode of A Side B Side Podcast. What's going on, Adam?
Not too much. I am doing very well, Brooke. How are you?
Good. The voice continues to get better and better.
Yeah, it's made leaps and bounds, but it's still not the dulcet tones we remember.
I think it's the allergies because, or like there's like the pollen is real bad or something. I don't know, because I woke up over the weekend and like my right eye was just bright red, like, and I have no idea what was going on with it. So,
Yeah.
Before we jump into anything, I just have to we have to acknowledge what happened in my hometown this past weekend, and I'm going to be linking on our website some GoFundMe's as a way to help the community. The Bills the other day went out and they went to the Tops and they helped the community and they served food, and I mean, that's genuine Bills Buffalo spirit right there. Not Bills, but Buffalo spirit right there. And it's still gut wrenching. And I didn't know anybody. My family is okay. I didn't lose anybody that I knew or loved, but that doesn't change the fact that it's gut wrenching. First of all, because human lives are gone, and then this is my hometown.
Was that an area that you were familiar with?
It
an
is
area of town.
It's not place that it's not a grocery store. That Tops is not a Tops that I frequented, but I know where it is. It's not far from where people I know and love live. So it's pretty devastating. I've talked to my mom pretty much every day, because every day some new information comes out about of course that piece of garbage that did it. Also want to link about all of the victims. You can find out about each of the 10 victims that have lost their lives. There were 3 others that were injured in the shooting, but they didn't die, but 10 people lost their lives in that shooting. So I'm going to also link about each of those people, and you can find out about these amazing individuals that lost their lives.
It feels like it's every couple of years we get something like this, and we're shocked that it happens, and then nothing changes. We do it again 2 years later. I mean, granted, there are mass shootings that happen every month in the US, but more something on this level of what was it? There was the church in Georgia? South Carolina.
Yeah.
That are just completely racially motivated. Like I know that I've read some articles that this individual was influenced by the stuff that happened in New Zealand a few years ago, and was watching videos from that have been supposedly, every provider says they've taken them down, but you could still find them, and he was obsessed with trying to mimic that, and basically had a playbook that was right there on the internet.
It's awful, and I will not ever understand how someone can have that much hate in their heart. I mean, that's what it is. People are like, oh, well, it's a fear of what? Another person? You have that much hate and evil in you. And I will never be able to understand that. I don't want to be able to understand that, because I don't want to be able to be on that level. It's just gut wrenching to know that people hate you because of how you look, because of it's a fact that you try not to think about every day, but it does hit you. It's a reality that no matter where you go or what you do, there's going to be somebody that hates you just simply because of how you look.
And anybody who's like, oh, this was like a rage thing, we've talked about cases where it's a spree killing where it's happening quickly, and they're in a manic thing. The dude drove 200 miles. You got plenty. There's
out for days.
I mean, this is premeditated and planned, and there can be no one who is mentally ill and does that much planning. This was just an evil act.
And literally, spoke to somebody that worked at the store the day before, because he was sitting out on a bench for hours the day before, scoping it and watching it. That is premeditated beyond belief. So,
and how twisted your mind has to be that you have all that time to really think if this is what I'm doing okay, and to never seemingly rethink it.
You've got all this time to waste scoping out a store because you're worried about this or worried about that. Why don't you spend that time bettering yourself so you don't have to worry?
Do something.
Yeah. But anyway, again, we'll be posting links about the victims and ways, if you are interested in helping the community. There's GoFundMe's for the victims and things like that. So we'll have that on our website. I know that's a hard transition, but that's
all right. We do a lot of weird transitions at this show. It'll be like, hey, here's a gruesome story about murder. And you remember Ewoks? Ewoks were cool.
Ewoks are so cute. Have you seen anything? Have we talked since I watched Doctor Strange? We have.
We have. I finally saw it this weekend. I mean, I feel like I need to see it again just to really absorb it. There was a lot going on. I had trouble getting into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's just, I think I'm so used to the series now,
mm-hmm.
which are much, much long, we're looking at, 5 hours worth of content, and stuff seems to just build in different ways. As in the movie, it just feels, 2.5 hours of just like rushing, So I think that was part of it. I was just, my mindset was still wanting the story to be told in a more measured and to allow things to kind of happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't feel that way with the Spider-Man movie. Like I was fully engrossed with the Spider-Man movie. And this one, I literally found myself just kind of like, not falling asleep, but just like thinking of something else and not being completely engrossed.
Okay, but are you see, of all the Marvel characters, Doctor Strange is like my least favorite. So I didn't even want to really see it, but I felt like I needed to see it because as a Marvel, loyalist or whatever, you have to watch everything.
Yeah, and it was supposed to be like, it was going to kick off all this stuff, and it's it's going to be really important. And I really liked this version of the Scarlet Witch, so I was excited about that. I thought it would be kind of interesting to see what they could do with all the multiverse stuff. But I don't dislike Doctor Strange, but I mean, I think he works so much better as like the character that he was in the Spider-Man movie, where he was just he was a supporting character,
mm-hmm.
but he doesn't have to carry the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because I mean, a otherworldly surgeon who becomes a sorcerer after he selfishly gets in a car accident that kills his love isn't the most identifiable character for me.
Right.
Like a scrawny kid who, suddenly superpowers and is trying to figure out how to people that, to leave him alone because he's feeling overwhelmed. That I get.
Speaking of, really funny story. I think I told you this last week. On my show, I ended up talking to a young lady who wrote a book.
It was the young adult, like when he was in high school, pretending to be a foreign exchange student trying to learn American high school or something.
Yeah. But he didn't. He was just, so Tom Holland actually pretended to be like an American kid.
Oh, I had never even heard this story. So I remember telling myself I was going to look it up last week, and then I didn't.
Yeah, so he enrolled in a high school and pretended to be like a regular American kid, and then people found out like who he was, but he wasn't. It was before any of the Spider-Man. It was before he was even in the Captain America movie.
Yeah, it was like super early.
Yeah, so and then of course they find out, oh, Tom Holland, and he's going to be this person, whatever. So, but it was a book based on that. Anyway, I'm trying to think, have I seen anything else? Finished Ozark. Wow, is all I can say. Wow. This Is Us is down to its this week was its second, or as you like to say, its penultimate. It was its second
It's
to
a
last.
fun word.
It was his second to last episode. Next week is the last series episode, and as always, you can count on them taking you through every single emotion. And yeah, they're really good at that. They're really good at that.
Yeah, I have no idea what night it's on, but I always know when it's been on because my Instagram feed, the stories are like just filled with people like with like crying faces or being like, "How could you like that was too much?" And you know, so I'm like, "Oh, that This Is Us must have been on tonight."
Yeah, I watched it and I was like, I mean, I broke down like 5 times watching it. I was like, oh, this is so good. Yeah. So there's that. And then I can't think of anything like really, really big that I've watched this week.
I'm excited about the just today the guy's name who I always say incorrectly, John Richardson, guy who's playing
Alan Richardson.
Alan Richardson. Gee whiz, I wasn't even close. Golly gee.
At least I know who you meant.
Yeah, no, that's why this works, because I can say like 2 completely incorrect words and you're like, oh, I know what you mean. It's like I have my own translator. But he just announced, or at least made a post on Instagram of they're starting filming of the next season of Reacher and what book it's going to be based off. And I was like, oh, that's really cool, because now I can go out and get the book and read the book before that comes out and kind of see the differences. But then I was like, but one of the reasons I liked the series so much is because I hadn't read the book that the first season was based off of. So I wasn't constantly thinking, like, is this like the book or not? I was just enjoying it in the moment. So I'm debating whether or not I should read the book before I see the series.
Yeah, go ahead and read it.
I should read more.
That's what I spent my week doing, pretty much. I've been reading 2 different books at the same time.
At the same, just like flipping pages with one hand each, or
like Scarlet Witch. I'm just like
just like sitting there. That's fair. I'm impressed. You would have thought that, you know, with all that magic, you could get your voice back.
I know, right? Oh goodness! All right, so this is episode 93. Are you ready to jump into this?
I'm ready. Let's do it. I'm always ready when you start first. So.
All right, so this is the story of Evan Spencer Ebel. So Evan was born in 1985 in Colorado to Jack and Jody Ebel. Her maiden name was Mongeau. So Jack was an attorney and a former oil tycoon, and Susan Jody, her name was Susan Jody Ebel, was a housewife. So as a child, Evan displayed some behavioral problems. Like at the age of 10, he was drinking and using drugs. And of course, this caused his parents, who were really decent people, to kind of stress out. And, I'm like, your kid's 10. Yeah. I mean, who wouldn't be stressed out? They're drinking and doing drugs, right?
Right.
So this actually resulted in him being sent to several different behavior camps for kids with problems. He was sent off at the age of 12. Some of the camps, again, because there were several, were even located overseas.
Oh, wow. And I'm assuming when you're an you said oil tycoon?
A former oil tycoon and an attorney. Yeah. So, I mean, they had some money.
Yeah. You can find these camps. This is not like, probably as accessible to everybody. It's not going to be like the county rec center.
Right. This isn't your local Y, which I love the Y. Grew up in the Y, but this is not
nothing wrong with the Y.
The Y it
learn
is
to
not.
swim at the Y.
Right. I had some great years at summer camp at the Y. Okay. So the camps didn't really help. They actually they had the opposite effect. They kind of enabled and strengthened his behavior problems. Kind of like when young kids or adults are sent to prison to be rehabilitated, and they're not. Probably need to fix that system. Yeah.
Well, and I imagine if you set a bunch of troubled kids together someplace and then tried to instill discipline, they're just going to more than likely lean on each other and get in more trouble.
Yes. So he told a friend, apparently, that the instructors of some of the camps were abusing children. That's what he alleged. It was never proven. Evan was arrested for the first time at the age of 12. The unexpected death of his sister Marion seemed to add to his issues.
Yeah.
He leaves home at the age of 16. In 2003, Evan is 18, and he is arrested for holding an acquaintance at gunpoint and stealing his wallet. When he was 20, he was charged for committing 2 other armed robberies and sentenced to 8 years in prison in 2005. While he was in prison, he gets the nickname of Evil Ebel for his behavior, including attacking a guard, and he spent a majority of his sentence in solitary confinement. Well, his father became concerned because he felt like having his son in solitary confinement all this time wasn't good for his behavior. So hey, this is going to cause damage to him.
Yeah.
And he even testified about this to the Colorado General Assembly. He was friends with the Colorado governor, John Hickenlooper. I mean, I'm sure that didn't add to him being able to testify in front of the General Assembly, but whatever.
Yeah.
While in prison, Evan becomes associated with, and this was not planned, I did not plan this story after
this was already in the works before this weekend.
Yeah. Evan became associated with a white supremacist gang in prison called the 211 Crew. Their members were actually responsible for the 1997 death of an African immigrant who was waiting for a bus. While in prison, he also began following a controversial religion. It's called Asatru, which is popular among white supremacists.
I that's new. I didn't know that they had their own
religion, right? Like, come on.
Usually it's just, right wing something,
So while in prison, the gang offers him up sanctuary after he was threatened by a rival gang. So in 2006, he's disciplined because this dude is a trip. He's disciplined because he smeared feces on his cell wall. He punched an inmate and a prison guard, and then he threatened to kill the prison guard and his family.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So 2 years pass, and Evan gets a plea deal, and he pleads guilty to the charges of, threatening and all that. And he's sentenced to an additional 4 years that were to be served after his 8-year sentence ended. But on January 28th of 2013, he was released from prison 4 years early after prison officials saw his court records, and they failed to notice the plea deal and the extended sentence. So the judge didn't mention the terms were to be served consecutively. The clerk noted the sentences as concurrently, causing the confusion. So a clerical error caused his early release. Upon his release, he worked with his father and he helped him out at his law firm doing research. He was also living with his father at the time. Somehow, while he's living with his dad and doing this research, he's able to get his hands on a 9mm pistol from a friend named Stevie Marie Vigil, whom it's alleged that he actually manipulated into purchasing this for him because, he's a felon, so he cannot actually purchase a weapon for himself.
And anybody whose nickname at one point was Evil is probably pretty good at intimidation.
Yes. So while he's at home, he's got on an ankle monitor. Mm-hmm. And somehow he is able to slip off this ankle monitor and he completely drops off radar.
Yikes.
So a couple of weeks, after he slips off his ankle monitor and he drops off radar, we come to March 27th, where he ends up shooting and killing a delivery pizza man for Domino's. The delivery driver was Nathan Leon, and this happened in Denver, Colorado. He steals his uniform after he kills him. So the assumption is that there were other 211 crew members that were assisting Evan. Yeah. 2 days after Nathan Leon is killed, He's wearing the uniform and he goes to the doorstep of Thomas Lynn, aka Tom Clements, allegedly. When Tom answers the door, it is alleged that Evan shoots him in the chest and kills him. No idea why. There is no theory. There is no rationale.
No connection between
no
them.
connection whatsoever. I shouldn't say there is no theory. There is no proven theory. One alleged theory is that the assassination was ordered by 211 crew members, but for what reason, we don't know.
No one knows. Yeah, it wasn't. They didn't make a Facebook post about it.
Exactly. It wasn't Instagram official, so it could be a means of repayment for protection in prison, but we don't know.
Some sort of initiation thing. It's easy to speculate about just about anything.
So the wild part about it is that Tom had actually been in support of limiting solitary confinement, the exact punishment that Evan was subjected to quite a bit while in prison. So 2 days after Tom's murder makes national headlines, Evan is spotted in his car. A description had been given by investigating authorities, like, be on the lookout for this car. So his car is spotted, and it's spotted in Texas, and he's pulled over by Deputy James Boyd, who Evan shoots and wounds. Oof. He shoots him in the head and he wounds him before taking off. Well, the shooting ended up being captured on the dash cam of Deputy Boyd's vehicle. Of course, Deputy, just like most of the time that they do, it's called in. They've got this description of his vehicle. A car chase ensues. Evan's like firing out of his window at the officers pursuing him.
Like something out of a movie.
Yes. It's like this high-speed chase. He's firing. They're chasing. Well, as he's driving, he ends up crashing his car into a semi-truck. He's alive. He crashes his car. He gets out. He's still firing at the officers, right?
Good God.
Well, he gets out. He's firing at the officers. They are firing back, and he's shot. He's taken to the hospital, and he's put on life support, where he was taken off of life support and declared deceased at the age of 28. Stevie Marie Vigil, the one that he persuaded into getting him the gun, was actually arrested, and she was sentenced to more than 2 years in prison for giving Evan the handgun. So let's go back to Nathan Leon, the Domino's delivery driver. Mm-hmm. Before he killed Leon, he forced him to record a message. His body was found. It's a rambling message. It's incoherent, but he forces him to record this message before he kills them. And then he puts his body in an open field where it's found. His father, Jack, released a statement apologizing for Evan's actions, but he refused to discuss them otherwise. Nathan Leon's wife, Katie, sued the state over the clerical error, but unfortunately the case was dismissed. It should be noted that police are investigating a connection between Tom Clements' death and the death of Kaufman County DA Mark Hass of Texas. The link comes from Hass's previous prosecutions involving white supremacist gangs in Texas. Hass was shot and killed in the parking lot of the Kaufman County Courthouse in January of 2013. And yeah, and that's it. That's the story of Evan Ebel. Not quite a more spree killer, I guess.
Spree, but I mean, it certainly felt like from the very beginning, this was the track he was on.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a matter of,
I don't think
when does the dynamite go boom? No.
Yeah, those would not have been his only victims had he not been stopped. And that poor pizza delivery. I mean, poor Tom Clements. I'm not saying not poor Tom Clements. I'm just like, this poor pizza delivery person, you killed him so you could steal his uniform? I mean, steal the uniform. Don't kill him. Don't kill anybody.
Yeah, I mean,
you get what I'm saying.
Also, you would think, I don't know the logistics of that. I'm guessing you make them remove the uniform before you shoot them, because otherwise it will bloody uniform.
I'm sure he probably did that as he was making him record this.
Make the video.
Rambling message, yeah. But that's one we don't have to worry about.
Yeah, no, I was convinced as you were telling the story. I'm going to be like, and this guy surrendered peacefully and is currently incarcerated and didn't get shot by the police. But
that's typically how it goes. But.
it seems like how it goes. But I guess you never want to say that you're glad that someone is dead, but I'm glad this guy's dead.
Right. Yeah. But that is this week's B-side. It was short and sweet. No, not sweet, but I mean,
I was like, I don't know if we want to. It was
Bad
sweet. It wasn't like we were at the end, like, oh.
Well, that ended so nicely. Story.
Yeah, I mean, it ended goodly. I mean,
yeah.
There's still a lot. It still feels like there's a lot of questions that we'll never get the answers to.
Never. Like, what about Tom? And
like, why these people? Why that? Yeah. Why use the? If you're just gonna go shoot this random guy, you don't really need a Domino's uniform.
Right. That's why I'm saying. Like, that's why I say, in my opinion, he was not done. This was not over.
There's something going on. Like, he was going to be like the murdering Domino's guy that goes on a spree, and now everybody's afraid of Domino's delivery or something. That would have really sank their stock, though.
They would have had to bring the Noid back.
Yeah, if you had a guy going around and it's like, you order Domino's and he might shoot you, then you're probably not going to order Domino's anymore.
Right, exactly.
It's Adam writing out the bad B movie that he's going to try to turn this into. Because the guy's got stock in Pizza Hut. So he's got to sink Domino's so he makes money on the back end, because it's always about the money.
Oh, man.
In this case, it was probably just about the crazy evil and some racism.
Evil Ebel, the racist. But yes. But there you go. That's the B-side.
So for the A-side this week, we are going a little bit lighter. And it completely started with an old man moment that I had this weekend. I found out that they are making a sequel to one of my favorite movies from the early 90s. And I found out who was cast in it. And I literally did the old man thing of, who's that? I don't know this guy. Right? He's going to be, who is this guy? Because everyone was like, oh, Jack Harlow is going to be in White Man Can't Jump, the reboot of White Man Can't Jump. And I'm like, hold on a second. I'm really excited about White Man Can't Jump. I love that movie. It is about so much more than basketball, but it's also about basketball, but it's about friendship and this relationship that is so flawed, and the temptations of gambling, and how hubris can throw away the best thing in your life. And also there's a Jeopardy subplot. So how could you not love this movie? But I was like, who is this guy that is going to be playing Billy Hoyle? I mean, what? Oh, he's a rapper? Okay. So I still don't know who Jack Harlow is, but it drove me down. I know he's a rapper. He's from Louisville. He's suddenly big. What's popping is his hit that I swear I've never heard.
Are you serious?
But I don't think I'm pretty sure I haven't heard it. Like, I just listened to basically like Spotify. I haven't listened to terrestrial radio that you're not on in like 5 years. So I don't have a car, so I don't have anything that plays radio stations for the last 2 years. Okay. So I'm pretty sure I've heard it. But
I'm telling you have to, because you watch enough sporting events and they've played it at many sporting events.
It's probably, I've heard it in the background. It's like, I didn't think I'd ever heard any Machine Gun Kelly songs about 6 months ago. And then one came on and I'm like singing along. They're like, this is Machine Gun Kelly. And I'm like, oh, I thought this was just some other pop punk band. My bad.
Who's going back to being a rapper now after this album, by the way?
Oh, well, yeah, of course. I mean, why not? It's good for Machine Gun. Also, like, how is that name okay? How in 2022, and again, old man moment, I know. How are we allowing someone to call themselves Machine Gun? This isn't like the 1920s when you're a gangster who literally, it was a apt description because you used a machine gun. But I'm sure he says his mouth's a machine gun because he spits words so fast.
Yes.
So I can rationalize it. Still think it's bad. We couldn't be like, Popcorn Kelly.
Not quite as hard sounding as.
It's true. But also he's not really that hard.
No, he's not.
He got yelled at by Eminem at one point because Eminem also
had like a little beef, a little.
Yeah, he also had an old man moment. So while I was looking into the new movie, which actually sounds pretty interesting, so they've got Jack Harlow in it, but it's going to be written and directed by no wait, that's the first one. I'm trying to find the name of the gentleman who's doing the second one. God darn it, I'm on the wrong page.
Director is Calmatic.
Yes, and there's another, and then somebody producing it. They've got one of the producers from Blackish, and I think the creator of Blackish is involved, and Blake Griffin, NBA.
Kenya Barris.
Kenya
Barris is Blackish.
There we go. Oh, here we go. Yeah, Kenya Barris. So that sounds interesting. I think, if they take it a new direction, I kind of wish they just wouldn't have any of the characters. Like, don't make it the same characters, but just tell a story about two guys playing street ball.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to have Sydney and Billy back again, because really their chemistry between Wesley Snipes and Woody Harrelson is what made the entire movie work, because they weren't exceptional basketball players. They were just good enough. Woody Harrelson claimed that he played in college, but I can find no details on the internet that he actually played in college. So he must have played like pickup or something in college, or intramurals. But he was evidently, of the two, a better basketball player. But their chemistry was the only thing that made it work. And well, it was one of the things that made it work, not the only thing, because it was also an interesting plot, and they did a great job of making the basketball scenes work and also having relationship scenes that were strong. But I found 15 things that I didn't know about the original movie that came out in 1992. And so I thought we'd go through them today, sort of as a knockoff of those YouTube videos you hear with 10 things that you didn't know about. So the writer of the film was Ron Shelton, who had just come off the success of Bull Durham, which he had written about his own experiences as a minor league baseball player. But he wrote the first 37 pages of the script in one day.
Oh, wow.
Which is insane to write. And he said he's never written that fast on any of his other projects. But he was so excited about the idea, and he himself was an LA street basketball player, so he had a lot of connection to the material, and was able to just fly through the first 37 pages. The original for Sydney, the original actor that they wanted, and I think he would have done an amazing job, and he kind of played a similar but slightly different role a few years later in He Got Game, was Denzel Washington. Mm-hmm. And Denzel Washington was offered the role, but he was already signed up to play Malcolm X, and so he turned him down. With two very different movies, mm-hmm. to be like White Man Can't Jump, which is got some drama to it, but it's really a buddy comedy and about relationships and a little bit about sports, versus this massive biopic that is a little bit more Oscar centric. The role that eventually went to Woody Harrelson, the Billy Doyle role, Billy Hoyle, sorry, because I've never gotten a name right in my life, was first offered to Keanu Reeves. Yeah, John Richardson, who was a little-known actor at the time. Didn't make it. He stopped acting, now runs a post office in Poughkeepsie. Keanu Reeves was offered the role, then came in to do had to do a basketball audition. And evidently basketball was not his thing, and completely failed looking like a basketball player, so that he couldn't give him the role.
Me. As much as I love Keanu, I do not see him playing basketball at all.
It would have been really I don't think the movie would have worked in the same way. I mean, and then he does Point Break, which kind of has some similar buddy machismo stuff, but then more action. I think it would better that he did that role than to do this one. Then Charlie Sheen was the next person offered the role, but he turned it down because he just doesn't like basketball, didn't want to play basketball all day long for rehearsals. And I was like, well, that's fair. And also like a really Charlie Sheen thing to do. Mm-hmm. He was like, oh yeah, I don't want to play basketball. And then another actor that was considered and who actually really wanted the role was David Duchovny. which that would have been interesting. He's a huge basketball guy. Like they used to be stories of him playing pickup games on the set of X-Files all the time. Absolutely loves basketball. So that would have been a different look. But eventually it went to Woody Harrelson in probably one of his first iconic roles outside of Cheers. Of course, now he's had an amazing, it's amazing to look back at Cheers and see that role and how much like he plays sort of just the dumb hick and the massive range that he showed over the last 30 years. And I think really part of that started with White Men Can't Jump, where it's a movie that even from the title, you're like, there's just no way this is going to work. And it hit on so many levels. Also, the chemistry between Rosie Perez and Woody Harrelson is something that I think is highly underrated. When I was a kid and I thought it was just a basketball movie, like the relationship stuff didn't hit me as hard as when I've watched it as an adult. And especially as an adult who has a flawed history of relationships, they do a excellent job of making the situation. I mean, it's the situation of gambling money is not super accessible, but the relationship part of it and arguing about, how are we going to spend money and taking risk. And, if you do this, I'm going to leave, and how Woody Harrelson just keeps messing up and keeps figuring his way at it. And as a kid, I felt like I was always the kid who could get grounded 3 times and talk my way out of it 4. My parents will probably not agree with that, but that's what I thought in my head. And so this idea of him getting into trouble, then getting back out of it, getting into trouble again, and getting back out of it was so like, I identified with it and I enjoyed it. But this was the first time that I remember consequences at the end of a movie. And here we are 30 years later. I'm going to spoil the ending of White Men Can't Jump.
Oh my.
So if you haven't seen it, this is where you skip about 5 minutes because I ramble, and we'll ruin the ending. But the most powerful relationship part, you've got Sydney and Billy who start out as rivals. They cheat each other at different times. They have to go through these, sporting contests where they come together, and by the end they are friends. But at the same time, on the story arc between Gloria and Billy, they are having that same sort of roller coaster, coming together, going apart, coming together. And when Billy goes and he wins the tournament to get all the money back that he'd lost, and he's doubled all of the money that Gloria won on Jeopardy, which again, there's a subplot that she gets to go on Jeopardy and she wins Jeopardy, which is just the randomest subplot that I can't believe they let happen. And Alex Trebek was in the movie, and he like half of his lines are ad-libbed in the movie because they just like recorded it and he just reacted to whatever was happening. And because he's amazing. And we probably like the fact that he never like did real acting, like was never like in Shakespeare, like I feel like we missed something there because he just feels like he would have been really good. But he also would have been like, hey, look, it's Alex Trebek. So probably couldn't have suspension of disbelief as much. Like if he was something like Gandalf, it would have been weird. But at the very end, Billy's won all of, he's doubled the money. He comes back, and Gloria had told him, if you go, I'm gone. And when you're watching it, you're like, no, like she's going to come in the door. Like it's going to get back together, and they don't. And as a kid, I remember how surprising that was, that it wasn't a happy ending. But as an adult, when I've rewatched it, and of course it is available on all of the streaming, you've got let's see, your Hulu, Prime Video, you can rent it. You can find clips of it all over YouTube. When I watch it as an adult, having gone through failed romances in my life, because it really hadn't at the age of 10 and 11, gone through a lot romantically. But now as an adult, as much as I love the Billy and Sydney sort of bromance that takes a long time, and the rivalry that becomes a friendship by the end, much as I love that story arc, the reality and the heartbreak of Billy and Gloria and their, roller coaster, and the fact that it ends with an honest ending. And as an adult looking at their relationship, even Sydney says it at the end of the movie. He's like, you guys are probably better off without each other. And that is not something that you hear a lot in popular, media or even in life. I mean, I remember growing up, I figured, okay, every relationship will like break up and then you're going to get back together because that's what happens in the movies. You have your trials and you get back together, but sometimes it's just better to not be with somebody. If you massively care about them or in love with them, you're just not good for each other. And I think that having the wherewithal to show that on the screen and write that in the script has made me love the movie that much more for an entirely different way. We've talked about it a couple times where I remember these movies I saw as a kid and I enjoyed them for one thing so much. And then you get to see them later and you see it in an entirely different way.
Right.
And that's, I think, the underrated part of White Man Can't Jump, besides the fact that he dunks. And as a kid, that was like the biggest thing. He dunks at the end and that's all like, yay, he dunks. Also, spoiler alert, he finally dunks. But Woody Harrelson couldn't dunk on a 10-foot rim. So that was 9.5 feet. So they lowered the rim.
Now that's the real spoiler.
Yeah, sorry. It's not a real dunk. But he didn't let Wesley know that they'd lowered the rim, and he bet him that he could dunk. And Wesley took the bet. And then he goes and dunks on it. Evidently, according to several reports that I read, there was massive gambling on the set during the games, even in the practicing and filming and stuff. They're make this shot or you make that shot. Or they're playing to the script, but they're also like playing each other because you need a lot of B-roll. So there was evidently a lot of the back and forth was very much based in reality. Of course, that was the first time I, as a kid, remember all the Yo Mama jokes. And each actor in that scene had an entire page of Yo Mama jokes that the writer and director had provided for them. But also he said, hey, you can bring whatever you want. And Kadeem Hardison is in this, and he was Dwayne Wayne from A Different World. And absolutely loved him in A Different World. And so I was super excited to see him in this movie. Yeah, he highly underrated and a very funny dude, but evidently reached out to Biz Markie and got Biz Markie to write him a bunch of Yo Mama jokes that no one else had heard. And the director said they had so many that they couldn't use because they were convinced that if they used some of the jokes, they would get an NC-17 rating.
Oh, wow.
So I wish, and maybe there's some B-roll somewhere, but I mean, 30 years on, I feel like if we could get a B-roll of all the Yo Mama jokes that weren't used in the movie, people would love that. That would go viral very quickly.
They should add that to like the end of the new one.
Yeah, that would be cool. I'm interested to see how they do the new one. I'm very cautious about this Jack Harlow guy. I don't know, but everybody was super dubious about whether Woody Harrelson was going to pull it off. And he did as well. So everything that Jack Harlow said in the interviews that I've read is that he's taking it very seriously, and he didn't, go in thinking he was getting the role, and he's taking it as seriously as he is his music, and he wants this to, work. He wants to dedicate, wants to take it like a real job and make it work. So I am hopeful that is a thing. But you can take it as seriously as you want, and if you can't act, you can't act. So we'll see if all of his reads or if his lines just sound like he's reading off of the script, because I'm a little scared of that. It's like I remember when DMX did Exit Wounds with Steven Seagal, and it was like a bad acting off.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not getting a lot from your scene partner there. So we'll see how it goes. I'm interested. I think it's 2024 is when they have said it's coming out. So we'll see if he's even in it in 2024. Like he could be gone in a minute, and we could be replaced by Channing Tatum or something, because he's doesn't have a huge cultural footprint right now.
Well, I kind of have to say he does, but since you are a white male over the age of 35, that's probably why
you're saying I'm not the target audience for his music?
No, not even a little.
That's okay. Yeah, that's all right. I am now over 40, so I'm pretty much out of every target market except for like golf commercials. Like the shows I watch, I get a lot of eugenics with Frank Thomas telling me about, she's gonna love it too. So that's pretty much my target market.
Those commercials are pretty funny though.
Oh, they are. And like, I love that the guys are all just going for it. They're like, there's no way that Doug Flutie, Frank Thomas, any of these guys need the money.
Mm-mm.
I mean, I think they must just have fun doing it. So why not? I mean, Frank Thomas, or one of them was on with Charles Barkley one time, and Charles Barkley had to bring it up. I wish I could find the clip. It was hilarious. But they laughed it off, and everybody's cool. Yes, White Man Can't Jump. Amazing as a basketball movie, probably even better as a way to show a flawed relationship and that sometimes they don't need to work out. Available on all of your streaming services, especially Hulu and Amazon Prime. And I rate it a 10 out of 10 on dunking on a 9.5-foot hoop.
Oh goodness. All right. Again, I'm gonna post on our website the GoFundMe information. It's a couple of different sites for helping out the victims in the community of Buffalo. All of our sources will be on our website as well. And then Adam, you can take it away from there.
If you want to follow us, go to A-Side, B-Side podcast at square.site. I don't know why I do that in a weird accent, but it's just how it comes out of my mouth now. You can find all links to all of our streaming services to follow and like us. The majority of you are listening on Apple iTunes, which I found interesting, but we still have some listeners on Stitcher and Spotify as well. Also, you can follow us on YouTube and listen there. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram. Our TikTok is currently under construction, so that's not going to work. I'm not very good at the dances yet. I just need some more time. You can do. Our website also has tons of merchandise if you'd like to support the show that way. If you'd like to support Brooke when she's trying to edit all of this together, because if it sounds good, it's mostly because she made it sound good and cut out all the times that I say balderdash for no reason. It's a weird tick that I have. I say it at least 3 times a show, and she has to cut it out. You can go to buyusacoffee.com and type in A-Side, B-Side podcast and send some love and coffee to Brooke, because she wakes up every morning at 2 a.m. So you gotta help her out when she's getting to the show. I don't actually know when she wakes up because that would be creepy.
It's not really too, but thank you.
Yeah, I figure, let's just add a couple hours. And I think I hit all of the things. Did I hit all the things?
You hit all of the things.
I hit all the things.
All right. Well, thanks again. Episode 93. It's been awesome and looking forward to 93 and many more.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brooke.
Thanks, Adam.